That'd be fun.
Everything-
Yeah.
Yeah,
So, I mean,
everything's the same except no swimming in the daytime anymore, except on Friday. Friday from 12 to 8 at night or 10. Saturday's the same, but anything in the daytime from Monday through Thursday is no more swimming. No more community swimming or whatever. Open
Okay.
swim.
Yeah, I heard Bill sold the place. Good for Bill. That's great.
Can I ask, are we going to leave this program identified as La Voz Latina? Is that what you and Hank discussed, Kirk?
I mean, I don't care. Doesn't matter to me.
Yeah, he discussed it with me months ago. So yeah, it's up to you too. You guys have got to agree on it too, Steve and
Well,
and,
see, Steve, what's going to happen is they can record some of these programs and then put them on YouTube.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And they just hit the record button down here and then they can download it to YouTube and the whole thing can be on YouTube and whatever we discuss on here can be presented on there. One thing I understand is when you have this program, YouTube requires that you consistently provide programs on there.
Really? So we have to do it all the time if we do it at all.
Yeah, and then you get people who are watching the programs and they'll make responses if you allow them to. And if you get people who are subscribed to it, if you get a certain amount of people, then they're going to start sending you money.
Really?
Yeah,
Sid, you and I will get so much hate mail over our opinions.
I know. Well, see, and it just depends on what people want to say. I know there's one lady I've been watching. She was.
We can also send a Zoom link too if people want to be on live with us too, man, or if they want to come on live or.
that'd be good.
Oh, okay. One thing I was going to say,
Sure.
If you could get a hold of Talal Lift Wafi, he may like to come on here because he's a Muslim. And he can give a whole different perspective from the Muslim perspective on anything that we do. Because, you know, as we are, we don't have that. Talal came on the program before. He was on originally when I started. He was on for like 3 or 5 years with us. And he was always giving, I would present a Christian view and he would present a Muslim view. And we would examine the two, how they interrelate and how they differed, you know.
And he tried to prove it with math too, remember?
Yeah. Well, he said he said he could prove God existed, and John Klein and I were on there.
Oh, no.
And he said he could do it mathematically. Yeah.
How's John Klein doing anyway? I haven't seen him in eternity, so it'd be good to get him
He
back.
seems to be doing okay. He seems to be doing okay.
These some wild opinions. I mean, outside, you know, what I love about you men in this show so much is that, you know, there's just such a wide variety of backgrounds, perspectives, opinions, thoughts, and, you know, topics.
I saw
That's what
him,
made the show always really, really exciting for me.
I saw him yesterday, and he seemed to be doing just fine.
We'll have to get John on here. He's an interesting character. I love the guy. He's a good man.
Yeah, I would love to have John on here.
He said he would come on too. So
with Steve, Steve was taught a lot. He was educated by nuns. So he's been thoroughly educated in the Christian system. And John has studied it also from his perspective. And then I've had the Mormon experience of being in and out. And Hank has been Christian. And what's your background, Kirk? Were you LDS or?
I was LDS, correct.
Okay. Hey, let me tell you, I don't know whether you're aware. Have you heard of the CES letters from the LDS Church?
I have not heard of that.
Okay.
I've kind of given up on. I left. I retired from Mormonism for a while.
Okay.
I know.
Let me
I
tell
just
you.
had, speaking of it, I just had the missionaries over the other day though. They had dinner. I had a sister and brother missionaries over. I don't know, man. You know what I mean? Like, I still love them people. They're good people.
Well, let me ask you, what are they doing about the masks, the missionaries?
The missionaries actually wore the masks the entire time. They were really pretty. Yeah, and down here in Arizona is a little bit different than the rest of the world. They don't really wear masks. I mean, maybe 5% of the population wears masks. So when all the visitors come from California, now they're all masks. So the way to tell visitors from non-visitors is if they're in a mask or not.
I was curious how that is because
we're starting our real estate team down here, so that's why I'm down here for a few weeks.
They shut them. They sent them all home last May, I think it was. last April or May, all the missionaries were
Oh,
sent
yeah.
home.
I don't know. They're definitely out now. I mean, they're out here. I've seen some friend of mine went up to the strip, so they're up on the strip. So in Las Vegas, that is, in case you didn't know. But yeah, no, they're everywhere. You know, good, bad, or
I,
different. They're definitely
I
everywhere.
was just thinking that's kind of dangerous for them to be going exposure to all of these people. I don't know how much protection the mask is, but it's kind of dangerous for them to be going out and doing that. I mean, like we're doing is safe. And I would think they could do it this way safely, you know?
Well, I know they do a lot of like, what the one sister missionary was talking to me about yesterday is they do a tremendous outreach on Facebook. So they are trying to do more Facebook stuff. And from what they told me, like, I'm like, you guys can come over for dinner if you want, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know how everybody else feels. I'm young and healthy. My wife's in fantastic shape, even though she's pregnant. But, we have a pretty young family. I mean, it's a little bit different. If I was 20 years older, I might lock myself in a cabinet somewhere, but, I'm pretty young, pretty healthy. But anyway, but they said from what they said, they didn't have a lot of dinner appointments, and not to be rude, but the young men were extraordinary and the young ladies also were extraordinary human beings. So I don't think it would be very difficult for them to have a full schedule if they really wanted one. So they were saying they didn't have a whole lot of dinner appointments. So they said they pretty sparse, which is thinking good,
That's pretty dangerous anymore in the world, under the circumstances, so
well, yeah,
I don't
plus like we're down here in Lake Havasu. I mean, you're talking, probably 75% of the population is over 60, maybe more than that. So, I mean, there's a lot of elderly folks down here, but it's very different. And I think it's because of the sun, because you get like so much vitamin D down here, but there's just not a lot of, I mean, there's been a couple hundred deaths. I mean, it's a very different perspective, people, there's like 100 something people that die on boats every year here. So, I mean, give you kind of a perspective, and there's two times that have died of COVID. It's not really, not to say it's a joke, but it's like, it's not really as like dangerous as like places in like New York City or LA where, I mean, you got a lot of old people and a lot of people concentrated in. So anything's going to be like wildfire. I mean, the flu season kills more people in New York City and LA than it does anywhere else too, because
what about the variant? What about the variant COVID-19, the different variants that they have? They got one in England, they got one in South America or in Africa, and they got one in South America now. How do you have any of those in Arizona?
I haven't heard of any. I mean, like I said, man, it's a really different place. I mean, people lean really right here. So, I mean, like they're like Idaho, where it's like almost like most people fall off the right place. Thank God that most people don't. I mean, people are talking politics, because of the whole thing from the last few months. But most people, like here in Havasu, most people are here to have fun, not talk politics. Thank God. So most people are pretty neutral politically. But they did have some very large Trump rallies here and stuff, though, which was really interesting. I don't know how I quite feel about it. I really want to see the country united, and I don't know if the right's not appeased with some kind of investigation into the voter fraud. I know there was it enough to change the election? I don't know if there was or wasn't. There was some definite things of fraud, but there are some every time, dead people vote for Republicans and Democrats.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. And but the thing about it is, I don't know what the numbers are, you know what I mean? And until you give, it was really, I think it was pretty unfair that there's not some kind of investigation going on into it, because I mean, until you have that, there's going to be a lot of people that can create all kinds of stories out of, maybe it was only 10,000 people. Maybe it was 100,000 people. Maybe it didn't matter if it was 500,000 people because it was in California. But until until you know the numbers, I mean, or at least investigate it, I think there's people on the right are very upset about that.
Hey, Steve.
Yes.
You've been watching this voter fraud. What have you observed from it?
I've observed that almost all the attorney generals in all of the states, including the Republican states, have said there's not substantial fraud.
In almost all states?
Almost all.
And the judges, they threw it out, right? They said there wasn't information, or there wasn't
They
supportive
took the
information.
attorney general's words for it. They're the ones in charge of the election in Idaho. It's the Secretary of State, of course. But virtually all of them have said that there was not substantial fraud. And that's essentially where it lies today.
Okay.
And I think like, you know, and being that I do lean right, I think the most frustrating part for me is that, you know, not every judge in every state everywhere is corrupt. That's just too far of a stretch for me to grasp. And the other thing that really like kind of frustrated me is like, if I was a president and I knew something was going to happen like that, like, you're not going to tell me that I wouldn't have it set up so it could be caught. I mean, and that's what I have a hard, I mean, they got some affidavits, some people, they have a couple other things. I mean, it's not completely a farce, but you know, again, it's back to not every single judge can be evil. Not everybody can. So, I mean, I have a lot of confliction. I mean, I kind of want to like an investigation being on the right, but I'm like every single judge. I mean, there's not one judge that's not corrupt in all America.
No, even some of those judges that voted against it were put in office by Trump.
Well, that's just it. You know, I mean, you can't tell me you appointed all these corrupt judges and then now they're corrupt because I put them in there. I vetted them or my people vetted them to be placed in there and now they're all corrupt. That's a really bad argument.
There's also the issue that the Republicans did extremely well in the House and Senate races.
Yes.
And so if they did so well using the same system, how did Trump do so poorly using the same system? I think
there's a lot of stories. I mean, that you tell yourself. I mean, because you know you can take statistics, and statistics are wonderful because they can say anything that you want them to say. You know what I mean? Like they say that. I mean, you know, coming from the right. I mean, he got more votes than any you know other incoming president besides Biden. I mean, you know, but they also don't realize that he was the most polarizing human being on earth. You know what I mean? Like, and you know, I mean, he knows how to pitch his people.
Yeah.
I mean, he just knows how to sing the song that everyone wants to hear. But
one of the issues I saw with that is they were shutting down voting mechanisms through the mail system. And Trump had him doing that. The guy who was in charge of the United Postal Service was shutting those down, breaking down those machines so that they couldn't be used and bringing the votes in. And with this COVID-19, the majority of people who were Democrat voted through the, you know, through early. And the ones who went in the day of the election were mostly Republican. Now, one of the problems was, from what I've observed, is that different states have different laws on how they count the votes. And so some of them counted the incoming votes first on the day of the election and then counted the other votes later. So it looked like Trump had the win until they started adding all of the votes that came in as a result of early voting. So
I mean, see, but there's videos of stuff, and I mean, like, you know, people should be going to jail. I mean, if there's voter fraud, I don't care if it's for Trump or against Trump or for any candidate whatsoever. Voter fraud should be prosecuted to the full extent. And there's just there wasn't enough prosecutions. I mean, there should be people going to jail. And I mean, you know, do people get political favors? I think that occurs, but when it's on some grand scale like this, I mean, you know, and he still had a lot of power over the Department of Justice. That's his job as president. So if there was proof of these people, why aren't they in jail? Like, I mean, so it was a huge letdown as a Republican being like, if all this stuff was true, like you didn't do anything about it. Like what? I mean, it's just such a stretch for me to believe and I wanted Trump to win. I like some of Trump's policies, but like it's such a far stretch for me to believe no judge would hear the case. Every judge in America is bad. I mean, you couldn't find a judge that said, okay, we're going to hear this out. I mean, and then you have like, you know, I know that there's going to be fraud against me as a president, and I won't make sure that I would have it on display on national television if I knew that there was people committing fraud. I mean, and there's just, you know, there's so many things. I mean, it's conflicting because I want to believe this stuff because I'm like, oh, Trump was great, and you know, everybody loved him. Half the country did not love Trump. Half the country.
What was that? Well, I have an issue with.
Oh,
I was going to say I have an issue with Trump when he fires the man who's responsible for ensuring that the election is honest. And the
You're talking
man,
about Barr. You're talking about Barr, right?
yeah, and he comes
Right.
forward and he says that his job was done successfully in assuring that the election was done correctly and that Trump lost, and then he loses his job because he did his job well. I have an issue with somebody's job being on the line when they're doing their job.
I don't think he wanted to be there either, though. I mean, like, who wants that football? I mean, that's like, I mean, I think it's called a hospital pass in Rigby. You know what I mean? It's where they chuck the ball to the guy and there's 6 people waiting to just clubber him. I mean, I think that was at least partly Barr saying, "Hey, man, I see the writing on the wall, man. I'm gone. Good luck." Well, I think that was at least part of it, man. Like, I mean, you can't be a political suit. I mean, Barr's a superhero. You know what I mean? Like him, don't like him. I mean, he's served our country well. But in terms of,
I don't think you should go down with a negative, attachment to his name for doing his job and doing his job well.
No, I don't think so either. I think he was a very unbiased person. I mean, he fought for people. I don't think he fought for the Republican Party. He fought for people. Right. He did a good job, and and that's as American. That's what I want. I mean, I don't care if I vote for crazy people. I voted for a couple crazy people. Obama. I voted for Obama. He was a crazy person. He sold us down a patent.
I voted for Obama.
I mean, he made it ridiculously expensive healthcare. But healthcare, everybody beats up Obama over healthcare, but not only was it terrible, it was terrible all around. But I mean, but what was he going to do? He had to address it somehow. And, I mean, did they do a great job of addressing it? I don't think so, because in the end, he sold us out to Big Farm. But, I mean, he had to do something, and he was productive in putting something together that passed. So, I mean, how horrible, he was a leader trying to make something different occur.
Well, yeah, I think if he could have done what he wanted, it would have been different than what he was agreed to.
I mean, that's why I didn't vote for him the second time, because I didn't think what he passed was that great.
Yeah, I voted for him the second time, but I disagreed with him a year after I voted for him the second time. Well, Steve.
You disagree, Steve?
Yeah, I voted for him both times. So, being a, union loyal man, Democrat, blue collar worker, you can understand why I would vote for him.
What did he do for blue collar workers specifically that I might not be aware of?
The new member of the National Labor Relations Board is a union man, the head of the National Labor Relations Board. And the one that was in there was a fellow who was, by and large, a employer of minimum wage people and was violently against unions. Now, how can you have a Secretary of Labor against labor?
That's
now are you talking about Trump did that, or are you talking about Obama did that?
That's
Biden.
Yeah.
Biden did that.
The new Secretary of Labor is a union man.
Okay.
Huh. I did not know that.
For Trump, what he did for unions was to declare war on China. And that has cost us, at least the farmers, everything. It was a really bad move to help the steel workers in Pennsylvania, but he had to win Pennsylvania. You understand exactly what I'm saying. Politics is playing too much of a part of this, and morality is playing too little. I mean, locking up little Mexican kids in a prison for several years after separating them from their folks is morally wrong. Hell, even the Mormon Church says that. There were so many things that were morally wrong with Trump.
Well, no, I was specifically asking what Obama did for labor unions specifically that I might not know about.
To be honest with you, that was quite a while ago. That was 4 years ago when he came out of office, and think 12 years ago when he started. Okay.
No, that's fine.
That he did,
I'm just curious. Does anyone else know?
One of the things that he did specifically for my union was he passed a railroad modernization Act. Okay,
Oh, okay.
and then that put another 50,000 railroaders to work.
That's cool. That's really cool.
Hmm.
So the Modernization Act of the railroad caused a lot of jobs to be created within the railroad, which specifically affected you. That's cool.
Yeah, we need to do something, particularly with passenger service across the East Coast. Now, we don't need passenger service here on the West Coast, although a lot of people would like to see it again. But we
Yeah.
do have to have good freight service. Our farmers can't get their products to market on trucks. It's just too much product.
Hmm.
You know, Simplot sent up 10,000 railroad car loads of potatoes every
Right.
year. Okay, trucks can't handle that. And if they did, it would cost us 5 times as much.
Interesting.
Well, it's something that I know something about, so.
Well, that's really a good reason why the representative has to represent everyone,
I would agree with that, Sid.
because what works in the East Coast doesn't work in the West Coast.
No,
It works in the cities, don't work in the country areas either. You know what I
Right.
mean? A lot of
True.
as well.
But for myself, you were talking about the Second Amendment, and I think that government needs to leave the Second Amendment alone. It was critical enough that they had to have the Bill of Rights to ensure it in order to establish the Constitution. And I think any chance of trying to change that anywhere along the way, I think is going to be a problem for the entire nation.
Don't know, Sid. I'm of two minds about it. It seems to me that nobody has the right to a 50 caliber machine gun. Nobody has the right to buy a tank or a nuclear weapon. There are certain things that are unreasonable for the public to own. And I think that we should eventually adopt some common sense rules. In Chicago, they use a pistol for hunting liquor stores and gas stations. Here in Idaho, we use it for target practice.
Right.
You know,
But because of a problem that might occur someplace else doesn't mean you should change the law in Idaho and change the Second Amendment.
they've tried to do it state by state, Sid. New York passed a gun control law. Washington, D.C. passed a gun control law, and everybody brought guns in from Virginia and Georgia.
Right.
I mean, there's no way to do it without a national law. And
Well,
that's a problem.
yeah, that's a problem because you're trying to punish people who are, let's say, law-abiding citizens for the acts of people who are not.
You know, the only thing
I
can
think
say about that-
technology is going to help find some solutions to this, though. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, we'll have tracking of guns. Like, I don't think people, you know, and I'm of two minds of this too, because I don't want crazy people with guns. I don't want like extremists of any kind of organization with guns. I don't want people who are mentally ill taking any SR-22s of any kind with guns. You know, I don't want people who are of certain ilks of mental illnesses with guns. You know, schizophrenic people don't need guns.
One of the problems is how anyone's
How
going to
do you,
manage.
where do you draw the line though? Is, you know, like I said, so I'm of two minds of this, because like, you know, once you start drawing lines, you know, which is, you know, like the First Amendment stuff that's happening right now. Do I think crazy people deserve a voice? And to some degree, I just say yes, because when do you stop censorship? Censorship is not all well. I mean, you know, and people who've done the same thing with a different voice that aligns themselves with certain ideologies get the benefit of communication where the other side doesn't. You know, but the Second Amendment's the same way, though. It's like, where do you draw the line and how you decipher who's crazy, who's an extremist? Is he extremist because he doesn't agree with me? Like, you know, most people don't think how the people here on this show do. You know what I mean? Most people are like, you know, they're firm in their ideology and they'll die with it and they'll fight to the death for their ideology,
Right.
and their belief systems. They don't have real openness about what they're doing. So I mean, you know, that's what's really tough, though. because, you know, I don't want schizophrenic people, even if they're on drugs and taking their drugs regularly. I don't want that guy with a gun. You know, I go to a park and, you know, I know one person who has a gun that's at the park, and I mean, he's nuts. You know, what happens if he starts drinking one night and his schizophrenia goes off the wall and he carries a gun? I mean, you know, some random person could be trying to get him. Well, he might shoot somebody. I mean, it hasn't happened, but it's definitely, it's not too far of a stretch to think that occurrence is going to happen someday.
It could, but I think the occurrences that have happened are ideological.
Right. Yes, correct.
The majority of what we're experiencing are ideological, and for the number of guns that are out there, this last year they had a record number of guns sold in our United States, and with the politics,
this year's going to be even more because everybody thinks that the whole country is going to burn down and everybody's be fighting in a civil war. And I don't.
If the guns are available, I understand. Like Pelosi was trying to get rid of large caliber pistols here a couple years ago, and so if the laws start to change where they can't get access to them, then you're going to have some controls there. But I think it's a hot potato. Anybody who tries to go in and handle it isn't going to want to hold on to it very long. I think
you mean politically, it's a political option.
Politically.
Yes.
I think it's too embedded in our rights. And when you start looking at what, you know, where our rights are, or what is the guiding light behind our rights, then we're going to be able to make adjustments there. But it's kind of like, you know, if you own a piece of property and the city wants it for an easement,
eminent domain, baby.
They've got it.
Right.
Eminent domain.
But the thing is, with what I see is the larger our population grows, the fewer rights we're going to have. And I'm not saying a big population is good or bad. I'm just saying the observation is the more people coming in, the more the changes are going to be made, the more people are going to buy up existing properties. And as a result, we can't trespass like in Idaho. You can't go and trespass 3 times trespassing and you become a felon in Idaho.
Stupid law.
Pardon me?
That's a stupid law.
Well, but it's the law. I agree with you, but it is the law. If you go hunting
Somebody
now,
thought it was a good idea. No one fought with it.
I have to take my phone with me to go hunting now, so that I can have access to the maps to see whose land I'm on. Make sure I'm not on somebody's land, because if I'm on somebody's land, they can cite me. And first 2 times are monetary at a progressionary rate, and the 3rd time you're a felon. Okay, and with being a felon, they can take your gun from you. Yeah, that's Idaho law. So you start increasing more and more people into, you know, immigrants coming into the nation. We have people die, we have people born, but our country is growing. If you look at it, I mean, about 4 years ago, I looked, it was like 315 million.
Oh, it's definitely at 330 to 340 right now.
Yeah.
I mean,
so in the last few years, it's done this. It's going to continue to increase, and there's going to continue to be laws change based on the public need. So individual laws are going to shrink in order to accommodate public need. And we have to be aware of that. And you know, my mother used to say this. She used to say, people are going to screw themselves away from the table. They're going to produce so many children that the demand on food is going to be so great that there's not going to be enough food for people to eat. And by 2050, it's estimated that we'll have around 10 billion people on the planet. And it's estimated that the food source.
No, it's really. I do have to step in on the food thing, but because I actually went to a friend invited me to go to a gala with Southeast Asia Foundation. They're actually building farms that go up now. So our food production isn't limited to our ground space, but they're also building towers for food now.
Well, they've got a chicken. I don't know if you heard about this. They've got a chicken that they've taken the DNA from. And it is the source of all of these grown chicken meat petri dishes. And they're creating a product of chicken that will no longer require killing chickens. They can take this genetic line from this one chicken and they can produce these, and it tastes like chicken, and it's chicken, and it doesn't involve killing anything. And they're looking into this for cattle because cattle release so much methane gas and belching.
Yes.
So they're looking at this as a source. Personally, I don't think the cattle are that big a problem. I think we point to the cow when we
Right.
want to drive our cars.
I got to be careful. You were going on about population growth and Second Amendment. I didn't mean to digress us into
Oh no, that's
one more
okay.
topic. Boy, we're really all over today, man.
Yeah.
It's great though.
But I'm just saying,
It always ends up like that.
as
I
our
know.
population, as our population increases,
Yes.
as demand of public needs increases, we are going to see this problem. Back in 1950, no one would have thought anything about guns or taking guns anywhere. You know, it's not a problem. Now I have a concealed weapons permit solely for the purpose that I can take my gun when I go hunting and not be pulled over and asked about my weapon. I don't carry a concealed weapon, but I go down to the gun stores and the guys in there have concealed weapons, the customers. I mean, I went in the other day, well, it's been it's been about a year ago. And I was the only one, there was like 6 people in the store, and I was the only one in the store who was not carrying a concealed weapon. They
Wow.
all pulled them out and started comparing them. And then the gun dealer pulled out his weapon and said, "This is my weapon of choice." And they each described why their weapon was better than the other guy's weapon. But they each were, and these were all older men. They were all sociable. Nobody was fighting with each other. Nobody, I mean, they didn't give me any indication that anybody had a gun until all of a sudden one guy mentioned it and they all brought him out. And it's just amazing to see, like in Idaho, that people can be so civil with a gun on their hip, you know, in public.
In some ways, having a gun on your hip encourages civility.
Right. But I walked into Walmart last year.
With the guy with the gun.
You're right. People are more courteous.
I will tell you this, if I walk into Walmart and there's a guy in there with an AR-15, I'm leaving.
Yeah. I walked in, I was walking out the door of Walmart, and this guy almost ran me down. It was last year, and he apologized. And then he walked ahead of me because he was in a hurry. And then I saw he had a .45 caliber pistol on his hip.
Yeah.
Left-handed, pistol right there on his hip. And it blew me away. I didn't think that people carried, I mean, it wasn't concealed. It was out in the open. And I didn't think people walked in Walmarts with weapons on their hips. But it happened here, right over here in Chubbuck.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it since.
Wow.
But
I saw
also,
the State House earlier this year said,
Nobody said nothing, Sid, store owner or?
well, I was walking out the door and this
Oh.
guy almost ran me down from behind, and he apologized, and then he got around me, and then I noticed he had a pistol on his hip. And I didn't, you know, it just kind of blew me away that it was a Western style pistol, and it blew me away that a guy would be walking in a Walmart with a pistol on his hip. You know, that's the first time I'd seen that, especially if a concealed weapon, they usually try to keep it so it's not visual, so it's not
Yeah, you have it a holster like right here or something. Yeah, so you're not like, yeah.
But I think if, especially that gun store that I was in, everyone but me was armed with a concealed weapon.
Did that make you feel comfortable or uncomfortable, Sid?
Well, it startled me in the first place because first off, they're all armed and nobody was a threat. You know, but then it startled me that everybody had a gun but me. You know, it was just like
you fell out of place.
It's kind of like I feel like I'm not keeping up with society's evolution. I don't feel the need to carry a gun, but they felt the need. I don't know what's going on in their lives. They were older gentlemen, and maybe they have been robbed. Maybe they have felt the need, and maybe they just love to carry a pistol on their hip, you know. But for me, these school shootings, I think those are isolated incidents, and I think they have to address what's going on based on that incident based in that state. And address.
I also think that the other argument is for guns is that, you know, everybody used to carry a hunting gun during the fall season. They used to go to high school, especially if you're in a rural area.
Right.
I mean, if guns were, the culprit of mass shootings in schools, like, why didn't we have them in the 50s and 60s? When, I mean, every kid in rural America had a shotgun during hunting season.
And people were civil.
And they were in their high school pickups or whatever car they had. If you looked in their trunk, you'd find a rifle for them to go hunting with.
Well, I
Right on school grounds.
I had a brother that used to like to beat on me, and I never once pulled a gun on him.
Right.
And I went to school, and I had to deal with bullies in school, and I never once took a gun to school. I was brought up as a child, when I was introduced to guns, that you don't do this. This is not civil in our society.
So is it moral fabric that's changed? And do we need to change because the moral fabric has? Or is it that we have to figure out how we get the moral fabric down? I mean, there's a lot of, single family homes. I mean, kids raising themselves. There's a lot more of that than ever. I mean, the only time I think there was more of that was during the 1800s, where kids would lose parents and all kinds of atrocities. And there was a huge number of children without parents.
I think the family value or morals have broken down. And as a result, I think you've got gangs, and then gangs like to be in numbers, and numbers become intimidating. And then you got fear, and then people feel they need to be protected. I understand we've got gangs here in Pocatello. There's some New York gangs. I understand. I heard the other day that there's gangs from New York here.
Now, who was it that said that to you, Sid?
Me.
I can't remember.
It was me, Sid.
Oh, was it you, Steve?
Yeah.
Okay.
You're organizing.
Okay. You want to enlighten us on that, Steve?
Yeah, enlighten us and let me know.
Well, of course, Brother Speed is always considered Idaho to be their territory. And
who's that? Which gang is that?
Brother Speed.
Brother Speed.
Gang, out of Portland and Boise.
Okay.
They've got a chapter over here in Idaho Falls. I don't know, maybe 200 members.
Okay, so what happens when you get, now these people, they're known for being violent?
Well,
They're not.
Brother Speed is considered to be a 1%er club.
Okay.
99% of all motorcyclists are not violent and are not criminals, but 1% are. Anyway, Brother Speed is currently engaged with a war with the Gypsy Jokers out of Portland over the control of the drug trade in northern Idaho going into Canada. And the Chinglings would like to have part of that too.
Okay. Well, you read the paper the other day, didn't you, where they've got a special crimes unit in Pocatello now for the police department? Did you see that?
No.
The other day, on the front page of the paper, it said that there's now a special crimes unit for the city of Pocatello for the police department. So, there's a lot of things that are going on in the nightlight here that we're not aware of.
Agreed.
And there's actually, I think Hank had told me about this a while ago. There's like a death every week in the city of Pocatello. Was that correct, Hank?
Yeah. Yes, and it was Jim Daly that told me that, and he was the sheriff for County County.
I think we're talking about a suicide, though, isn't there? I think it was a suicide every week.
Yeah, and they're having that too, and I heard that from a police officer that was at the spa too, that he was involved in suicides every week himself too.
Now, this was the officer that was involved when Johann killed himself, right? Was this the officer that told you that?
No. This was a real tall. Anyway, he's a public relations officer right now for the police department. He's on TV a lot, and he was the one that told me about the suicides. And also, he says there's a lot of crime going on in Pocatello that we don't know about, that people just don't know about. They're not publicizing it, but he knows it because he's involved in it, and I don't know if people want to know about it. To tell you the truth, that's bad news. I don't like to even know about it, but I asked him about it, and he said, "Well, it's true. You've got You got problems here in Pocatello. You think it's really nice, but no, we still got problems.
Well, it's what I'm saying is there's a lot of fear that is being generated by people.
Yeah,
And
that's true.
and when who was the head of the sheriff department here a couple of years ago said they can't protect us anymore. They said, you're going to have to learn to protect yourselves. Do you remember that?
Was it Nielsen?
Is
Lauren?
It
He's
was
not the sheriff. It was Manu
the
now.
one who just ran for reelection. He ran for something else. He's the older guy who ran for reelection.
Yeah, Lauren Nielsen.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's the one that came forward. And we had, what we had was a number of Muslims attending ISU. I'm not sure what country they were from, but there was considered a threat because there were so many of them here. And they actually had some of them go down to the gun shops down here. I heard people in the gun shops tell me, the guys behind the counter said that some of these people came in and they wanted to buy large caliber guns. And the gun dealers knew who they were and they refused to sell them to them.
That's unusual.
Yeah, but it happened here in town.
Wow.
Some time ago, the mini dome, I heard some time ago, there was, they stopped some young adults from going in with guns and having a mass shooting in the mini dome some years ago. I don't know whether you guys heard about that.
Crazy.
Yeah, I heard about that too. So there's a lot of
It's a
things.
very small, like for some of the people that are watching this, like Pocatello is a very, very small town. I mean, it's in the middle of nowhere. It's small townville.
About 55,000 people. And then you got Chubbuck with what, maybe
20.
15, 20.
Yeah, I was going to say Chubbuck's about 25, but when you say Pocatello is a small town, I want to remind you that Pocatello was the only city in all of Idaho on the intersection of two major freeways. It's also a major rail point.
Major rail hub.
Yeah, so we do have a lot of people and a lot of goods coming through here.
Yeah, a lot of drugs.
Good
too.
goods and bad goods. I know they've had some very big
good and bad
drug
goods.
busts.
Yeah.
A lot of people come down through 15 to carrying drugs from Canada or to Canada.
Right.
Yep.
Well,
And they, like I said, Jim Daly actually told me that too. And he was he said they had a lot of problems with that. You know, they, like, 'cause I asked him about the drug trade and he said that there's a lot of it coming through here, and they're having to deal with it all the time. But he's retired now, but, and enjoying it away from the police department. But he was the undersheriff for what, 30 years there?
Pretty close.
Well, you know him, Steve, you know.
Oh, I know him quite
Good
well.
guy, really good guy.
Yeah.
Really, well, he had a good head on his shoulder. But Lauren, to tell you the truth, Lauren did a lot of illegal stuff. Yeah, I went to the, I'll just give you this example. This is a true story. I went there to visit my son. And when I got done, there was this Indian feller out in the parking lot trying to get into these cars, you know, trying to get a ride. And what happened is they picked him up and took him to jail, and then they let him out right there. And anyway, he wasn't all there. You know, he was older gentleman, but he was just trying to get a ride back to home. So anyway, I went up to him and I said, "Come on, let's go. Let's find your home." And I said, "What happened?" He says, "Well, they picked me up, put me in jail, and then they let me loose. And I wanted to call it, you know, somebody, and they wouldn't let me do it. And I don't have any money." So I told him, "Well, you got a relative here in Pocatello or Fort Hall that I can take you to." So I took him to one of his nephews here in Pocatello and dropped him off. But these guys just let him loose. I didn't like that. Plus, I heard that somebody died there too.
Was that illegal, or was that just done wrong? So I've heard a lot of.
Yeah, to tell you the truth, a lot of what I'm telling you has happened at that, and that's why I'm glad to see that Lawrence is gone. He's my friend, but he didn't do a very good job.
I mean, sometimes even when you're in leadership positions, man, I mean, people do dumb things beneath you that aren't always.
Yeah, and that's true too.
Choice. You know,
That's
I mean,
true.
I'm not trying to make excuses for the guy because I don't know if it
Well,
was
well, let me
intentionally.
tell you this: when you're the head of something, if you're the boss, you're
Well,
responsible.
I get that, but it
Yeah,
doesn't
and
mean that
that's the way I look at it.
it doesn't mean that he was saying, you know, you guys go and do this, but we don't know either.
Well, the
Yeah.
same thing happens in a court of law. I had a business law professor who taught that law is as law does.
Yes.
Okay. And because a law is one way doesn't mean that it's moral or immoral. It's just a matter of this is the law. That's what is.
You know, and I'm not trying, like, again, I don't make excuses for human beings, but like, you know, people make mistakes like all the time. Like I know, like, and I wish I didn't, but you know, there's one branch of law enforcement that's pretty aggressive in Pocatello. And, you know, I was talking to one of the people in that division. I don't want to say which branch it was.
Right.
But you know, it's like, you know, and the way he said it is like they're pretty aggressive with people from out of town, but you know what I mean? Like the reason they have to be aggressive with like a lot of people out of town is because they're stopping people from coming up from Las Vegas and saying, woo, here I am. I have arrived in the kingdom. I am going to rule this place. And I mean, I'm not talking about good people, and I'm not talking about ruling in a great way. I mean, they want to like start a distribution hub right in Pocatello. You know, there's guys that come in from California and they're like, whoo, man, I am a small fish in a big sea, but over here I'm going to be the big fish in a tiny pond. And they do a fantastic job of stopping those criminal scumbags from coming in and raping our children and causing our children to die of overdoses and running people and running huge scam gangs and stuff like that. And I mean, it's sad that they have to be aggressive, and there's obviously casualties in that war of being that way too. However, I mean, you know, again, how do you measure that in terms of necessity versus, you know, not violating the law? It's one of those I'm of two minds on too. Again, I'm going to use that forever now, Steve. Thank you. You can have,
Hey, by the way, I
multiple
agree with you,
views
Kurt.
on the same topic.
I got
I
a
agree
comment
with you.
on. I got a comment on that. It was like, I think it was in the year 2000. We built onto the jail. They built a new jail over here,
Yes.
and now and for the last couple of years they've been trying to get us to build on to the new building of the jail.
Sure.
Okay.
Correct.
So what's going on is the demand in the city of Pocatello has not really increased that much in terms of population, in terms of jobs, in terms of people. But the demand for resources for the new jail has increased.
Yes.
And I'm looking at this and I'm saying,
And now, you know what it is, Sid? There's
What's
more
that?
women being picked up and taken in.
well, whatever the case is, we have to look at that, but we also have to look at what is essential and what isn't essential. And I'm not trying to tell a judge what a judge's job is, but I think, you know, holding somebody over in jail for obstructing court or being a problem in court shouldn't be a jail term. That should be the last choice. It should be a hefty fine.
Or
Okay.
tons of community service or something, especially
And free
especially
those,
like,
free
I mean,
those
these judges. A friend of mine does a lot with the court system, and he says his case thing. I mean, they're backed up forever, dude, and they're
Yeah.
still. You know, I mean, and the jails are full, and
but
court system's clogged up, and then then they want to make lessons of people who are jerks in court.
understand, I'm not trying to be disrespectful to the police. I'm just saying
I got that.
the resources for the community to be able to afford to go into a 20-year addition to the police department, and then what's going to come in 20 years. And Pocatello we're kind of bordered here by the mountains and the reservation, so we really haven't got a lot of development or growth to continue to grow when the need for incarceration is going to continue to grow. And I don't think that the majority of those incarcerations are local. I think the majority of those I don't know, but I would assume that they're not local. And so what I'm trying to say is, I think, and there needs to be some discretion on a judge's part, that you fine people for contempt of court, and we try to keep these people who are not really a problem, they're just ignorant, fine them and take the people who need to be jailed so that the resources are monopolized for their best use. I mean, that's just
I know a lot of judges, man, and like, I mean, the hardest thing about being a judge, because I've done a lot of interviews of judges. Maybe we can even get one on here sometime, so we can get the other side of the story. But I mean, like some of these judges see the same people committing the same crimes. They go into jail for raping someone, they get back out. They're out 6 months. They rape a second person. They go to jail, come out. They armed robbery. They go back to jail. They come out. They kill somebody, and they finally lock them up forever. I mean, there's a huge chronic problem when it comes to judges and some chronic criminals. They don't, a lot of people don't switch gears until they're in their 50s or until they're just incarcerated forever. I mean, it's like being a cop. I mean, no one ever calls a cop for a birthday party. Hey, emergency. Can we have a 911 call? Like, Johnny's birthday is here and he needs a cop here because he loves cops. I mean, they're not getting invited to birthday parties. They're getting, they go every day. They go in and they got to deal with people beating the hell out of their wives and the same people. Like, like I had one guy I was going to do business with, and I did a background check on him. He had 60 incidences of domestic violence. Needless to say, I didn't do business with the guy. But I mean, that's like in a 3-year period or 2-year period. So in 24 months, he had 60 incidences. I mean, and this is the things that the police deal with, but it's also the same thing that judges deal with. I mean, it's
now you're talking politics. You're talking what can politically be passed versus what can't be passed. We're not talking morals. We can say it's immoral, but a judge doesn't have the ability to enforce morals. Well, he has the ability to enforce the law.
He does have the law, but I mean, he also has discretion. And what I'm saying is there's a human being element of being a judge. And, there's plenty of judges I think should never wear a robe. But there's a lot of judges that, unfairly do or beaten or thrown in a basket of terrible people passing judgment down. I mean, it's a tough job. Not to say that, there aren't other tough jobs. Yeah. But, there's, every day you're seeing the same people committing the same crimes. It's like they never learn. You try to help them learn by discipline. Discipline doesn't work in a lot of cases. I mean, I don't know what the real solution would be. But, I think the overcrowding problem, I mean, it goes back to like the morality thing. I mean, people like, not only is there, because there's a higher population, there's more laws. I mean, like if there were the laws that are on the books now, me growing up as a kid, I probably would have gone to juvie every year.
Well, I think that
I delinquent. I mean, and there's some stuff that like I did was really bad, but there's other stuff I did that was like petty, and I have to teach my kids like how to have like great morals. Like, what I mean? Like when my kids went to court, my other 3, none of them been to court yet, but I have one kid that had to go to court over $5. Okay. Over a $5 bad decision. She had to go to court, go through this whole process for $5. But I mean, where do you draw the line? So, is it bad that someone shoplifted for $5 and you don't prosecute that? Or is it that you do continue to prosecute that so they don't do $500 worth of stuff for $5,000?
I think those are going to be the choices in the future based on what the society can afford to pay for incarcerating someone who is considered to have broken the law. I think down the road.
But at the end, it goes back to the more law thing, because, the more laws you have, the more people that are breaking the law.
Right.
And what do you do with the more laws and which ones do you want to enforce versus which ones you don't? I get the argument.
Well,
by the way, Kurt, I need to ask you a question. I apologize for interrupting, but
no, you're fine.
For the YouTube thing, you can only be on maybe an hour, is it?
You can go on beyond, but I don't know what it requires.
4 hours, dude. Don't matter. I'm getting ready to leave in a few minutes, but you guys can continue on for as long as you want. I'll just transfer the hosting to whoever wants to
transfer it to Sid, because I've got to take off here too in a few minutes. Everybody here took off. It's Super Bowl Sunday.
Oh, and here we're talking politics, and we should be partying it up, dude.
Huh?
We should be partying it up, and instead we're like talking politics.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Hey, by the way, I'd like a whiskey from you, Steve, and I'd like a drink from you too, Sid.
Yeah. Speaking of Super Bowl Sunday, why don't we end with like a real quick? Who's everybody's picks for winners for Super Bowl Sunday? Why?
Okay, Steve.
I don't follow professional football.
Okay.
It's the Chiefs and Brady's Buccaneers.
I love to watch college ball. I just don't care.
You don't care.
You don't care.
If I had to bet, I'd bet on Tom Brady.
I see.
I would like to see Tom Brady win just to see somebody make that achievement. You know, but I haven't watched any of the football this season.
Neither have I, but Henry Jr. likes the Buccaneers, you know, and so I'll go along with him on the Buccaneers, but I'm not a football fan myself either. But the thing is, my son just picked up all the kids, you know, because they're going to celebrate, you know, over there and watch the Super Bowl. And Keenan, he's into it, just like his dad. So
I would like to see the Buccaneers win too, because we haven't seen them in the Super Bowl.
yeah, and that's
Here we
what.
got. Can't see it. Buccaneers.
Hey, Buccaneer! Oh, all right, man.
So I'll
All
be
right.
taking the LA hat off, and I'll be putting the Buccaneers shirt on, man. And I'll tell you, I'm all for Tom Brady. Tom Brady is the same age as me, dude. He's like 43 years old.
Really?
It's like super fantastic for someone my age going and kicking the hell out of people in their 20s and 30s. I'm going to beat the hell out of them in the Super Bowl. Like I'm just like, go old man. Like he's not old man, but go old man that's like past his quote prime, and he's going in there to kick some ass, man, is a fantastic, amazing feat for any man.
I had no idea that you were 43.
What's that?
I had no idea you're 43. I assumed you were.
No, dude, like years ago, dude, when we did the show, man, I was like a kid, man. It was like 10 years ago we did the show.
Yeah.
On the show
I
regularly.
still saw you as being young.
Like, oh my gosh, dude, it was like I was like in my low 30s, mid 30s, man. Jeez.
Well,
you don't look at Kurt.
Thank you.
Welcome
You
to
look
May.
younger.
Welcome to what group? I'm sorry to hear that.
You don't look your age, but Sid and I, you look at the videos boy, you can tell that we've
my hair's lost.
Come on.
Getting
A
wrinkled.
year or two. Hey, we definitely got
look
to
at
do this.
that.
This is
Wow.
fantastic.
I got the hair.
Are we just
Steve
ending
got
it now, or do you guys want to like continue on?
Well, I have to go myself, but now when do we want to do it again? Let's decide maybe now before we because I know one thing, next Sunday I'll be here, but the Sunday after I will not be here. I'll be out of town at the gambling place there in
Cool.
Jackpot.
we got to get away. My wife and I got to get away, so we thought we'd go.
Hey, when you do, you might come back and give us kind of an update on how things are in a casino.
Yeah,
You know,
we're gonna.
with COVID.
Yes, I'll definitely do that.
I know they have a casino that's right across the river here in Lake Havasu, and nobody's been winning very much money. I heard one friend of mine say they don't pay out very well too much anymore. So the shortened crowds have caused the machines to be more aggressive.
Yes,
Machines are more aggressive.
True.
So be wary of your money, Hank. When you go to that casino, those machines are hungry.
Yeah, they are hungry. Yes, I agree with you. 100%.
They're skinny
In order to
machines.
pay out,
looking for
there
more
has to
money.
be so many losses. So they've got so many losses that have to be generated in order to make that payout. So if they're not getting those losses, you're going to be participating in the loss portion.
Man.
Well, I can tell you one thing: the casino here in Fort Hall, they ask for your ID, your masks when you go in, and the rules about playing. They take your temperature when you go in, and they take your driver's license and they register it.
Really?
Here at Fort Hall, they're doing that. So they're keeping a real check, and they're watching people. They don't want anybody taking their masks off, and they're watching for that too. So, and they don't serve the drinks. You can't go get a drink anymore. Oh yeah, I know. Yeah, no, I remember now. You don't get the drink yourself. There's a person there to get it for you and give you the cup. Yeah, so
Okay,
they're pretty careful.
I got a comment on Tommy and John Klein, right? Tommy Brown and John Klein. We're going to try to get them in the next meeting.
Yeah, that's good, dude. That'd be awesome. That's gonna be phenomenal.
John said that he would love to come on, but I haven't seen John. And then Tommy, I didn't see him this last week. I'll see if I can get him on.
Go stop by his job, man. See if you can grab him. He's a phenomenon. Nice to be on the show with you too, Steve. It's like always nice seeing you, bro.
Nice to meet you, Kurt.
And Sid and Hank, I'm gonna head out now, but thank you so much.
Hey, I've
Yeah,
enjoyed this discussion, guys. Thank you.
Yeah, and thank
I
you.
made Sid the host, so I'm exiting,
Okay.
but you're the host, so you control when the meeting ends or doesn't, if you want to end the video or not.
Okay.
Appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Hey, enjoy the weather down there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. I'm gonna leave too, Sid. I'm
Okay.
gonna join him over at he just, well, you see my son when he said goodbye, I guess you were behind me.
Right.
He's gonna, they're really into the Super Bowl and they're gonna have some eats and I'm gonna go eat.
Okay. Well, be safe.
Okay.
I will see you, Hank. Thanks.
Okay. Well, oh, but next week, same time, we didn't discuss that without Kurt.
You'll have to send him an email to set the meeting up for next week,
Okay.
and then have him send us all an email.
Okay. And I guess the name of the show is La Voz Latina, and I'll try to get the background for it. I'll see if I can get it on the background of mine, and then that way people will know that, because I've had folks ask me in the community why the show went down, and they really kind of missed it. So it's kind of neat to be back, even if it's on YouTube.
Well, are you going to put this one on YouTube?
It'll be Kurt. Kurt's the one that
Okay.
uploads everything.
Okay.
He's the uploader, so he probably will.
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds good.
See you, Steve.
Hi, Nick.
Okay, and hello to Sharon, and I will see you next week, same time.
All right, bud.
Okay.
All right.
Take care.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye. So what do you think, Steve?
I'm afraid to do anything, Sid. Always gets me in trouble.
Okay. I was thinking, your comment about Pocatello having two major freeways intersecting,
Right.
Pocatello and Chubbuck,
Yeah.
that does bring a lot of the conflict in.
Yeah, this is a transportation center, and anybody going anywhere in the Northwest, whether you're going to Portland, Seattle, or Missoula, or Fargo, has got to come through Pocatello.
I didn't realize that.
See my point? And we're a small town with a bunch of fertilizer factories with all of the chemicals necessary to make meth and super meth.
Yeah, I didn't. Well, I thought they went around the horn around to over like Burley in a lot of cases.
Well,
If they're coming from Salt Lake, they would.
They do go to Burley if the Snowville cutoff isn't closed down.
Okay.
But even then, Burley is known as a hub too. So is Malad. Isn't that strange?
Yeah.
Malad is considered to be the distribution point into the United States for Salt Lake City.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Coming from the Northwest for the.
No, coming out of Mexico.
Really?
Yeah, they fly into Malad and then transported into Salt Lake.
Wow, because Salt Lake Valley is so hectic.
You got it.
Ah, I didn't realize that. Wow. There's a buffalo herd down there in Malad too.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, right off the freeway. Somebody's got, it looked to me like at least, 400 or 500 head right there off the freeway. Yeah.
Oh, that would be impressive.
Yeah. It blew me away. It's been a while since I've driven down through there, probably 4 or 5 years, but yeah, they've got it right there on the west side of the freeway.
How do they keep them fenced in?
They've got them fenced. It surprised me. It didn't look to me like the fences were any better built. I was expecting to see like railroad ties.
Well, it takes a lot to stop a charging buffalo.
Yeah. Yeah, but I don't see that they, I just saw them out in the field and it blew me away. It was a fairly large field and it looked like it was a couple miles long, 1.5 miles, 2 miles long and fairly wide. So yeah, it kind of blew me away.
Yeah, I'll bet.
So what do you think of this program?
I don't know, Sid. I'm not much for broadcasting my opinions. When people ask my opinion, I'll
Uh-huh.
give it to them.
Right.
But as for just going out and broadcasting all my opinions, I'm not too much into that.
Well, I don't know if you noticed, I kind of took over some of the questions in between there because Hank's usually asking and Hank wasn't asking. And so and Kirk, he had a lot he wanted to say. It's been a while since he's been on.
I can see that he had a lot that he wanted to say.
Yeah.
Like I say, I know the two of you real well. Okay, so I don't mind broadcasting my opinions a little bit with you two, but you know most of my opinions anyway.
I do.
And
I think Hank wants to get his program back up and going, and
yeah, I'm sure he misses it.
yeah. And then there's the matter of what topics people are going to discuss during
Well, politics is crazy right now. There's lots to discuss there. And economics is crazy. There's a lot to discuss there. You know, government social programs, there's a lot to discuss there. A lot of crazy things going on, Sid.
the virus.
The virus be a good thing to discuss.
What about people being misled by
Politics.
conspiracies? Yeah, that's in the politics, but people are really buying into that stuff.
Oh, sure. Particularly here in Idaho.
Yeah.
I know.
It surprised me how many people think that that's actually true. Whatever Trump says is true. And it doesn't take much to listen to him to figure out the guy's lying.
No. I mean, you don't have to be a blooming genius.
Right. So what is the attraction? Is it just that he is their leader? They're the man who gives their...
I think part of what it is, Sid, is that they're uneducated and have never learned to think for themselves. They need people to tell them what to think.
Are they... A lot of these younger people aren't situated in terms of career paths, and they don't have any real agenda in their life.
No.
So is this what gives them, it fills that void? Is this?
I doubt it. I mean, I heard the guy say that, okay?
Uh-huh.
I kind of doubt that. Most of the young people I know are hopeless. They don't have jobs. They don't have money. They don't have a future. And that's the way they see it. They look at somebody like Bernie Sanders who says, look, I'll give you a job. I'll give you money. I'll give you an education, and those are things that you had to go out and work for.
Yeah.
And he wants to give them to them. So you can see why that would interest them.
That's another topic, is whether they should forgive the national debt portion of student loans.
I don't know. I will tell you this, that I have been paying my grandson's student loans off for years.
You have been?
Yeah. I co-signed for him to go to college.
So you're actually paying his loans?
Yeah, I have to. If he didn't pay it, I have to. I co-signed it.
And that's actually happening. You're actually having to pay his loans.
Many years, yeah.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, I've been doing it for years.
I think he's only been in about a year or two.
Well, Sharon, I've got the records in there. Go look.
Yeah, okay. Never mind.
Yeah, Sid, it's just the way things are. And I'm not willing to let a dog go hungry, let alone one of my children. I got a son that's been out of work for almost a year now.
Right.
He's got to eat. He can't get his unemployment. New York won't even return his phone calls.
Really?
Yeah, well, all their people are out. They won't come to work because of the COVID. They're working out of home.
So that had something to do with Tom Cruise's rant. Did you hear about that? Oh, he had a rant on some people who were in the production crew were getting too close together I think looking at from a camera's view or perspective or something, they were getting closer than they should have. And Tom Cruise just lost it on the set, screaming to him. I mean, he actually screamed to him, and we're talking 4-letter words and F-bombs and the whole works. And he was talking about how the purpose, they were trying to prove to Hollywood that they could make films in this environment of COVID-19, and that people had to be extremely careful. But he was screaming he was going to fire these people and all of this. Well, then somebody set it up to, they put his speech to Santa when he comes out to the elves and he's talking to the elves in the little cartoon, and Santa was saying all of everything what Tom said. But it's just that the economic world, the industry has taken this COVID so serious that it's actually, it may be overdoing it, harming people,
Well, the economy on Henry's job is just almost ridiculous. He works mostly Broadway plays.
Uh-huh.
And in order for a Broadway play to make money, it has to have a 70% occupancy in the theater. And the laws in most states limit them to 25. So anytime they perform, they lose a lot of money. So
Okay.
the whole Broadway thing is just shut down.
So the economics just isn't there to justify it.
No.
Based on what they're
Based on the state laws where they want to do all this.
okay. So is there anything they can do about these theaters, like putting filtration systems in there that have
Sure, it can be done, Sid. Matter of fact, part of this new proposal that Biden just proposed the other day for COVID relief thing for theater owners. Okay. The problem with that is the guys who own those theaters are already multimillionaires.
right.
They don't need any money. That's the people who work there who need the money.
So why are they giving the money to the wealthy again instead of to the?
Said, you've got me, I do not know. Just say that they want the theater owners to stay in business so that when it does open back up, we can still have that part. They say that New York City alone accounts for $18 billion in imports from out of state for people going to Broadway shows.
Really?
Yeah.
In fact, we went to Cats on Broadway.
Wow. I didn't realize that it was that large.
The stockbroker, it costs $300.
But the problem that I'm seeing with this, silver went up to over $30 an ounce this last week. Okay, and I can see easily that we'll be seeing $50 an ounce silver as they keep having these stimulus programs.
What's causing silver to go up is that it can be in smaller denominations. Okay, you and I were talking about the problem with gold coins.
Uh-huh.
You're looking at a $2,000 coin and no way to make change. The reason silver is going up is the same reason. It's smaller denominations.
Well, you can deal with an average person. But yeah, the gold is beyond the average person's ability to.
Invest.
I mean, yeah, and it's just going to be an exterior market like China or India or Europe or something else, Australia. Rich people who can afford to pay those fees. So you're going to have a lower demand product with a high price.
You got it.
And that can't be consistent. That sounds like a crash.
Well, it does, Sid.
A correction.
Yes. You and I have both seen that coming for some time. And we talked about all the different forms that it can take. I still think it's going to be a credit crash.
Well, I'm hearing these financial advisors projecting a potential 40% crash in the market this year.
We'll see.
Yeah.
I'm out. Doesn't make any difference to me. Crash away.
Well, I'm out, but I'm still invested in my 401k in companies that are invested in that. And if they crash, then how do I get my money?
Don't.
Yeah. So even though I'm not in the higher risk, I'm still in the risk because they're in the risk.
No
So
question.
what, after I quit working, I took my 401 and I put it in Ameriprise and let, what's his name? Abrzeszewski. No, the guy that took care of it.
Sid met him. I introduced him here to house, honey.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. He actually works for me.
Hmm?
George works for me.
Does he?
yeah,
You're talking about George Castellamides?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with George. So,
At any rate, Sharon was just saying that she closed out her Ameriprise thing and put it into the credit union.
okay.
but
Just cash form.
when
Yeah.
I
You-
retired, I took the bulk of it and put it with Ameriprise.
But at any rate, at the time that she left Simplot, she pulled her stuff out of Simplot's program and put it in with Ameriprise. I don't know.
Okay.
if you still have those. You probably do.
Did they give a Social Security increase this year?
Yes,
1.3.
1.3%.
Well, that's better than a poke in the eye with a sharp stick. It's not, my my pension from Simplot doesn't have a COLA, and my insurance that I get from the Standard doesn't have a COLA.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm surprised about that.
Yeah, it's just if I make any money on the side, then they come in and they,
Reduce it, yeah.
yeah. So, and I can handle something like this for a while, but I can't go out there and be next to pumps and motors and diesel engines, and it's hell getting old.
Your working years are done. From now on, you're gonna have to learn, you're gonna have to exist off of your abilities.
Yeah. Well, I found that, I'm still fairly strong, but you get me in the wrong environment and I'm in trouble.
Oh, Sid, you can't be around large noises or loud noises.
Yeah,
And that just about puts you out of the labor market.
it does. I'm sitting there trying to figure if there was anything that I could possibly do, and I can't.
Maybe you could be a librarian or something. I don't know.
Well, even a librarian, you can't just go in and be a librarian. Most people are on the internet anymore. And, and a librarian, they have to have skills.
Yeah, books
So,
are becoming a thing of the past.
yeah, filing and all of that, you have to be trained in that. So I've sat there and I've tried to think what I could do, and I'm puzzled. Even with a business degree, I'm pretty puzzled. I mean, if I found something that kept me in a back room away from things and just had me enter data, something like that, a possibility, but then everybody seeks out a job like that. So it's not like there's a lot of demand, not a lot of supply for a position like that.
I'd say I think you better just admit to yourself that your working days are over. From now on, you're going to have to live by your wits and your money that you've got saved.
Well, and that's what I've tried to do, but I also realize that, one of my prescriptions went up by 200% this year.
So several of them might have, yeah.
And I went in, I just filled it, and it wasn't a whole lot to begin with, but all of a sudden it went from less than 100 to over 200 and something a year. And I looked at that and I thought that, is this real? Because I went through the window at the pharmacy down here and the drive-through. And so I went in and I asked them, and they told me that was the second one that day that they had found that had gone up so high that they had to check. And that, they said that they will look into other lower priced competitors. But it blows my mind that you know, in 1 year, a prescription can raise 200%. And if it could do that this year and next year or the year after, I mean, what happens with it just blows my mind.
Well, in 3 months, I had a prescription. No, I'm sorry, 1 month. Go up from about $2.85 or $3 to over $12.
Okay. Mine, the base price was 15 and I was paying 23 and it went to over $44. 44, 45 for 3 month prescription, which isn't a whole lot. But when you start looking at, you know, this is the start of an inflationary period.
Yeah.
Well, according to the Fed said, and they're the ones who keep the figures, inflation is still under control.
But they don't include gas, and they, you know, they exclude certain things in order to keep that monster at bay.
I was
So they're not really telling us the full truth. They're giving us as Kirk said, how the statistics can be manipulated truth. Okay. And then
don't lie, but liars can use statistics.
yes, yes. And they're giving us this and saying, be happy, be happy. In the meantime, you go to a credit union or a bank and you're not even making 1% on your money, you know, and what little bit you do get is taxable. Okay. I mean, what small fraction you actually get. And so it's like ludicrous to put your money in a bank. So what does that say to the security of banks for the future?
I don't know what it means. There could possibly even be a time in the future when the banks will charge us for putting their money in the banks.
They do that in Switzerland. There is a certain amount of money that you have to pay. It's like when I was there, it was like 1.5% or 2% to have them hold your money for you.
Yeah.
And utilize it. And I left some money there when I left in an account, and that's been absorbed. I found out later. I thought, you know, I would send money in over the years and have an account. So if I went back, I could go and see the country and have money there and have it in Swiss dollars so that my American dollars, which were depreciating, would be worth more buying power. And I found out, you know, my account's absorbed. So
there's always those ways for people to steal your money, Sid.
Yeah. It blows my mind. Am I keeping you from the football game?
You know, I don't think it starts for another 15, 20 minutes.
Oh, was that right? Okay. I wasn't really going to watch it.
I wasn't either, to be honest with you. I'm not really interested in professional football.
I have been, but with the virus, it's had such a change on the dynamics of the game.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you have to take into consideration the player's abilities with the chance of getting a virus. So, you know, and if they get the virus, then that skill set is out of the game. So it's a crapshoot now.
Yes.
It's much more than it's ever been a crapshoot. Before, people can say, you know, who has the best chance and everything, and anymore. And now I read in the internet that this COVID virus, they think is going to be with us for now on.
It's hard to say. It depends on its mutating ability. It could mutate into a harmless form. It could mutate into something extremely deadly. We just don't know what it's going to do.
Well, with human nature, knowing that people refuse to wear masks because it alters their hair or their appearance or their free choice in a free country, you know, I mean, if I were able to bet on the virus, I'd bet on the virus.
Oh, sure.
Over human nature, absolutely. I would bet the virus is going to have I would bet it's going to have more than just a single year effect, simply because we now have 3 strains we're dealing with.
Yeah.
And the lack of human nature, their desire to continue to live a free life in a world with a pandemic You know, they're just in denial. And then there's this narcissism of caring about themselves and not others. I understand people have to make their businesses run, but I also understand that, you know, I'm spending most of my time at home
Yeah, so am I.
and I'm trying to be a part of the solution
So am I.
instead of a part of the problem.
Uh, I'm trying to help the economy. I'm spending all my money on jewelry.
You know, I looked at that police site and you have to join in order, you know, it's like $7.95 a month or 75 a year.
I didn't join anything, Sid.
And you still were able to buy?
Yeah.
Because it was the first one that came up and it said that you had to join. And
Well, I see where there is that program where you do join.
okay.
But I didn't.
Okay. You just went ahead and bought outside it.
Yeah, I bid on one thing, and when they said to pay for it, I filled out the form, or Sharon did, and we've been paying with a credit card just automatically.
Okay. Well, they had some steel cents on there, World War II steel pennies.
Yep.
And I thought they were in the containers. And the container cost like $20 to just put them in a container. And they were selling for like $12.50 a thing. And I thought, you know, buy a bunch of those. And I don't know whether I mentioned to you, maybe down the road, I don't know if I could get enough money together, I could consider having a coin shop. But I don't know if that would work for me
You know,
in Pocatello.
numismatics is a funny business to begin with. You know, you got to be quite a fantastic liar in order to sell a lot of that stuff.
Well, if you went, I was thinking not so much numismatics as trying to go buy bullion.
Oh,
So
well, I
that you're,
want to be a gold and silver dealer.
yeah, and just look at it in terms of just buying and selling bullion and shipping it out as quick as you get it so that
That's
you're
remarkably easy to do, Sid, because you don't have to maintain a
in
inventory.
inventory. Yeah. And I thought about something like that, but I don't know if Pocatello was big enough to justify. I mean, they had a coin shop here and it went under.
Those places. Okay.
Did you tell him what you've been buying?
Yes, I did.
Did you tell him you bid on 17 different pieces?
Sharon wants me to let you know that I have bid and won 17 pieces.
Whoa, you're going to be able to open your own coin shop.
Not coins, jewelry.
Jewelry. I knew a guy in Idaho Falls. He's a coin dealer that I've dealt with, and he has pushed jewelry for the last 7 or 10 years, and he's making money hand over fist.
See, the problem with investing in silver and gold right now is it's so high. And
right.
You run and sell it for even more to make a profit.
Right. You got to be able to pay your taxes and your expenses. You know, if you had a shop, you've got to be able to pay taxes and expenses. Yep. Otherwise, you got to do it on the internet.
Right, which is the better way to do it anyway.
Yeah, but you don't actually see the merchandise that you're getting, and you know, and so I mean, it can be more dangerous.
The problem is that it costs so much money to start with your inventory. Okay.
Right.
Whereas jewelry right now is right down in the basement.
Yeah.
It's like buying silver at 50 cents an ounce. You see what I'm saying?
Right. If you can, do they inform you what the percent silver is in these coins that you're buying and all of that?
Sid, I've never bought any coins.
Or excuse me, in jewelry. In jewelry. I'm sorry, I'm stuck in the.
Plated in gold.
Yeah, generally, they will tell you that if it's plated or if it's solid, and then they'll tell you if it's gold, they will tell
14 karat.
14, 18 rose gold, 10 karat.
But in terms of silver, do they tell you whether it's
they tell you it's sterling.
Sterling, okay.
You know, it's 90% silver.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you think he's going to get any of it back from me to sell it? Honestly.
Sharon just told me it's not worth a shit for trade goods.
No. I want it, I want all of it for Valentine's Day, Mother's Day, and my birthday. He's got to give all of it to me. I will give him, St. Patty's Day if he needs another day, but that's it.
How about anniversary?
No, too far out.
Okay. At any rate, the idea is kind of like it is in the stock market. You buy low,
Mhm.
sell high.
Right.
And right at the
But-
moment, I think I've ever seen gold as high as it is. And I know silver has been higher than it is, but
Right.
not much, you know?
Well, in terms of dollar value, dollar then versus dollar now, $50 then versus $30 now from 1980. Silver is really only about, $10 or $12 an ounce at that rate from then, from the
Yeah.
high.
You see where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
Whereas if you'd had a $50 gold piece,
Yeah.
But at any rate, yeah, silver is a risky investment because it's no longer an industrial metal. It used to be that we used silver in a lot of different stuff, particularly electronics and such.
Uh-huh.
Okay, it's such a prime conductor, but they don't use it much anymore. Part of the reason for that is that we know a lot more about electricity now than we did then. We used to think that electricity traveled all the way through the body of a wire. And therefore, the bigger, the thicker a wire you had, the more electricity you could pump through it.
Okay.
But now we have learned that electricity only travels on the surface of the wire.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so what you see today is more cable wire. There'll be 50 strands inside,
Okay.
and because that has much more surface area.
Uh-huh.
The same amount of electricity as one of those big old cables used to carry.
Okay. How long have they known that?
Oh, I don't know, maybe 20 years, 25 years.
Okay. So really, it hasn't been that long.
Uh, yeah, if you go into these old houses, you'll find this old number 12 copper wire in those houses, okay? You can't buy copper anymore. It's about $4 a pound.
Well, I think the wire I put in my house, I think it was pretty big. It was back in 94 when I built the house here. So we're talking 27 years ago.
Yeah, you probably, if I were to guess, now I'd have to look at the wire to know, you probably use 14 or 16 gauge,
Okay.
okay? Because that's
Okay.
regular household wire, okay? When you start getting down to 12, hard to cut with a pair of pliers,
Okay.
okay? And
Yeah.
in the days, that's what they used. They used 12. But today, they use much smaller wire, primarily because copper is so expensive, but also because we know a great deal more about it today than we did then.
That reminds me, I went out to Home Depot when I bought those Tommy Copper masks you told me. I bought some. I stopped in, what was it? That place out on Yellowstone that sells the medical. And I asked them for the mask like I was wearing, and they don't sell the masks like I was wearing, the P95. They don't have any. And he never mentioned anything about the little, I didn't ask him about the little replacement pieces that go in there.
They should have been right on the inside of your Tommy Copper mask.
Oh, is it in the inside?
Yes, yes, yeah, I've got one right here.
I haven't opened it yet.
Yeah, if you look at them, this is what you see.
Okay.
And then on the inside, sewed to this, there's a
Top and
pocket.
the bottom.
Oh, okay.
Now, what you do is you take a mask, like this N95 mask,
Uh-huh.
and slip it
Put it in there.
inside. And it's open. The
Where did you
problem
get
with the N95 mask is two things. First of all, it has a rubber band,
Okay,
and they break.
right.
The other is that what you're taking it on and off all the time, body oils will destroy the mask.
Okay.
So the trick is keep body oils off of the mask. This filters the first mask, and this filters the other side. And when you take the mask off, you never touch this one.
Okay. Where did you get the liner there, or the inner piece? That one.
This one,
That too,
Yeah.
my son is a paramedic in
Oh,
Portland. He sent them to me.
okay. Okay. I was wondering if you got them here at that medical mart or whatever it was, you know.
I understand they're available at Norco.
Norco, yeah. Do they sell them there?
That's what I've heard. I've not been there in a long time.
I went in this last week. I went into the doctor's office and had to check in with him. I got to go in every 6 months to verify, you know, with my insurance. But what I slipped in there. Oh, I was going to tell you, I got this watch and it does my heart rate. You know,
Yeah.
It is hooked with my phone, and I can play Dick Tracy talking on my phone with my watch.
I've heard of
But it's checking my heart rate, and it sent me a notice the other day that while I was asleep, my heart rate fell below 40 beats a minute for 10 minutes.
called bradycardia,
And what is that?
slow heartbeat.
But I've been, you know, I've been on my elliptical runner and walking, and I've been doing extended walks. I can't run like I did, but I've been doing, like, you know, 40, 50, 60-minute walks when I can. Sometimes, most times I can't make it. I'm getting old. But I think that's been making my heart rate drop.
It will.
Yeah.
Get in better shape.
So, but
The only problem with dropping in bradycardia, okay, and that's what they call that because it can be dangerous.
uh-huh.
The difference between your high blood pressure and your resting blood pressure
Uh-huh.
does this. It's almost like your heart stops beating.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's very little difference in pressure, which means that you lose a lot of your circulation. And when
Okay.
you lose your circulation, you suffer a stroke.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's good to know. It's not good news, but it's good to know.
But that's what it was telling you, is that you're suffering from bradycardia. And all you got to do is just get up, move around for a couple of minutes, and go back to bed.
Okay. Well, my dog has to go out and
Sure.
use the yard a couple times a night.
Gives you a good opportunity to do it.
Okay.
I know mine gets me up 2 or 3 times a night.
Yeah. Mine's been doing that. And it's fun. Yeah. I just got some insulated coveralls and I just pop those on like a set of pajamas and let her out, you know, hang around for 10, 15 minutes and then go back to bed. And that's just the way it is.
Hey, yeah, at any rate, I don't mean to discourage you about opening up a coin business. And I certainly
Well-
don't mean to discourage you about buying silver or buying gold. The only thing I will say about that is you're buying high.
Yeah, I realize that.
And the idea is to buy low.
Right. But I've tried to figure whether there's really the demand in Pocatello for a coin shop, and I don't think there really is.
Oh, we've got one here.
Which one?
Shamrock.
It's closed.
Is it closed?
Where's it located?
Used to be down there next to the Red Wing boot shop.
Yeah, it's closed. That's now a Radio Shack, and there's some other building there too.
Mm.
It's been closed for about 4 or 5 years.
I see him advertising all the time. He must be advertising this place over in Idaho Falls.
Well, the guy who owned the Shamrocks here, he sold it to his daughter.
Wow.
It was Dan. He sold it to his daughter, and then he died. And he was helping his daughter maintain it. He had a problem with his heart, and the doctors said that they could go in and they could do some operation. And he had another doctor, he told me himself, and his wife told me, he had another doctor that was saying, you know, you're at the age where it's not safe to have an operation. So try to live your life as you can, you know, what you can do and work with your life. And he just got tired. His wife said he just got tired of not being able to do the things he wanted. So he went in and the operation, and he died on the table. And so the daughter ran the business for a while, but she didn't know the numismatics. She knew the bullion, but she didn't know the numismatics. So she ended up closing the business. And I've never seen a coin shop anywhere that replaced it. You know, there's some of these hawk shops do a few coin sales, but they don't really have a lot of knowledge on what they're doing. And so there's not, they don't have an inventory.
Pawnbroker's always risky, Sid.
Yeah.
You're never sure what you're buying, and you're never sure what you pay, and then
Yeah.
it be a
But
little-
Dan went by gray sheets. He had the gray sheets he had them back to like 1970s. And that's what he was using to determine his prices. And he bought based on those prices, and he sold based on those prices. And then he was able to move the coins to other places, you know, sell them to other stores based on those. And he showed me the coin back in 1980. He showed me the prices of like $20 gold pieces and silver. And I could see, you know, when it was $50 an ounce, I think it was 1981, it was $50 an ounce. And then all of a sudden the crash to $4.
a lot of people got burned.
Well, I think that it's likely to be another burn.
Don't know, Sid. It's awful hard to predict.
Well, it's just a matter of, you know, this is a big poker game
Yes.
with the government. And the government can always do what they've done in the past, which is take in the currency and put out a devalued currency.
Easy.
So if they do that, and you've got your coin that's worth so much in silver, and they cut back on inflation, what does that do to your coin value?
Boost it up.
Yeah. And then it's, in numismatics, it's
Up in inflated dollars too.
but coin collectors are finicky from what I've observed. And like with Dan, he used to sell US coins they had a fractured frame on them, that the coin was cracked. And to allow for the US government was really stringent on their standards. So for them to allow that to get by was really rare. So he could charge a premium for those coins. And then after he died, people looked at those coins as though they're inferior and they don't want them. So the demand for them dropped. So what's perceived to be a low supply market on one side is considered to be an inferior coin on another. So, I mean, they're just too finicky.
That's one of the things about numismatic values. It's pie in the sky, Sid.
Yeah. Yeah. I've noticed that. That's why I got out when I could.
Yeah.
What I had, you know.
Rely on bullion value.
Yeah.
Don't go with numismatic value.
Yeah. Well, I love the numismatic coins because, you know, you get them. I used to have a 1850 $20 gold piece that was minted in New Orleans.
Mm-hmm.
There was only something like 50,000 of those that year. But it was like
most of those in the early 30s.
Pardon me?
I say, and the government seized most of those in the early 30s.
Yeah. So they were a rare coin.
Yeah.
So I paid a premium for it, but when I sold it, I got the gold value. I didn't get the premium for the coin.
Yeah.
So
it's pie in the sky. It's risky business.
yeah, I've made a little bit of money on it in the past, but I don't know. I just don't see anything to put money in. I know one lady who put her money into water rights,
Mhm.
and she put a couple $100,000. She put something like 50 or 70,000, and in a couple of years it was worth a couple $100,000.
Mhm.
And with people coming in to this area,
Get more valuable every year.
however, again, as you get more people in, the rights of the people are going to outweigh the rights of the individual.
Right.
Those water rights are going to be a need for society, and they're just going to give them a value and take it. So it's all the tulip bulb. You know, that's what it is.
Well, since they started putting out paper currency a long time ago,
Yeah.
it's been a matter of faith.
Well, 64, they stopped the coins in silver. And was it 28, 29, they stopped the gold production coins. And then you had to sell your coins.
Yeah, they made it illegal for Americans to own gold.
Yeah, unless you had numismatic gold, and then you could own up to several. There was a number you could own, but you couldn't, you had to sell everything else back.
Right.
So I just,
And nobody kept track of what was melted down and what wasn't.
yeah,
That's the part that gets you. Some of those figures are pie in the sky.
yeah. Yeah, so how do you,
Yeah, there's no way to determine the numismatic value except by how many were minted. And if most of those were melted down, that should make them twice as valuable, but there's no way to calculate that.
right. That was a friend of mine started collecting $20, or they were silver dollars, but they were the Carson City silver dollars.
Oh, wonderful. You did well.
And he bought the MS-69s, MS-70s, the high grade.
Yeah.
And he's made some really good money on that.
Yes, I have.
But he, well, in doing that though, what I see is those coins, one day they're worth so much, and another day they can't sell them.
Right.
I was talking with Dan down there at Shamrocks, the owner back then. He told me in the year 2000, he had people bringing $20 gold pieces in, and he was giving them $200 for them. Now they're like 2,500, you know, or more. He was giving them 200, and he said he wasn't even taking them. People were coming in and trying to sell them. He couldn't even take them because he couldn't move them.
Well, if you're in the business of selling coins and can't sell them, you're in trouble.
Yeah, and that was the thing, is that how do you keep people buying, especially numismatics, and in a younger generation where, you know, well, it's like my prints on the wall, the Bev Doolittles. They're not holding their value at all.
Really?
Yeah, they've. I mean,
going down, Ted. That's news to me.
It's what?
That's news to me. I didn't know prints were going down.
Bev Doolittles have. I've seen Bev Doolittle prints that used to go for 10,000 on eBay. I've seen them listed at 2,800 and 4,000.
Really?
And nobody bid on them. I bought one here a while ago. I saw them. They were listed at probably 1,500, and I think I paid about 125 for this print. And it's a nice print. Somebody just wanted out of it, you know. They knew they didn't want to haggle or anything. But I've had some prints here that, you know, I paid like 3,500 for, and now I see them for, you know, 1,200 for sale. So yeah, Bev Doolittle had a high market, but that market isn't in as big demand right now as it was originally. You know, it's Western, Native American Western art.
I was going to say the same thing. Anybody who liked that type of art is old, like us.
Yeah. And by the time it comes around, the question is, will they honor these, or will they want a new print of the same thing that hasn't been faded, or, you know?
I don't invest a lot in prints, okay? But I do couple. And the ones that you want to get are the hand pulled prints.
Okay.
And when somebody's making a print, the
Right.
artist himself will be there. And
Uh-huh.
he'll take the first 8 or 10 to make sure that the colors are exactly the way he wants them and such.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, these were signed and numbered, what I bought.
That's exactly what
And
you want.
and most of these have anywhere from 1,000 to 1,500
Mhm.
of the
What-
print.
What they told me was that if you're gonna invest in prints, the ones to get are the ones that are hand pulled rather than machine pulled
Okay.
with a number of less than 10.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know that. Wow.
But yeah, they have to be signed and they have to be numbered.
Okay.
A lot of different things affect the value of prints.
Yeah. And but then you know, if you get a high humidity level in your home, your prints are gone.
Yep.
Or if you hang them where the sun can bleach them, your
All
prints
that
are gone.
destroys.
Or a fire or whatever. You know, there's so many. You know, it's not like, yeah, well, a gold coin, you're going to lose that in the fire too. You know, it's going to melt. And it's only like 5% copper and zinc, and the rest is gold. And then your silver dollars are what, 70%?
I was going to say 75.
Are they 75?
That's pretty close, about 3/4.
So yeah, and I don't know. I always liked them though. I had two uncles that collected coins as a kid, and they kind of got me interested in coins back then. But there was one coin I bought from Dan down here. It was a $20 gold piece, and it had he had the original. He used to put them in these cardboard. It was a surround piece with a plastic see-through on both ends, and he had sold it for $75. And somebody brought it back and sold it to him, and they bought it originally from him, and he gave him something like 600 for it. Yeah, and he wanted to keep that coin because it was marked in the original wrapper, because it was marked at 75, but it was broken. The plastic had broke around it. So he decided to go ahead and sell it, and he sold it to me. He showed me the wrapper it had been in and everything. And he was just amazed. But he bought a farm with all of the money that he had from that. He bought a farm, I think it was down in Downey, and he bought one, I think, in American Falls.
Really?
Yeah. And he said that there was a time that he was running, what did he say? It was a couple $100,000 a week through his store in silver.
Really? Big time.
Yeah, he was really doing big time. That's not what he was making. That's
Oh.
what that was the
Sure.
vault. Yeah. He'd buy it and then he would sell it. And they were selling their silverware.
Mhm.
You
And
know?
tea service, the whole ball of wax.
Yeah. And he was taking that in and he was buying eyeglasses, old frame eyeglasses. People were bringing those in, and he was having those melted down to get the gold out of them. So yeah, there was a lot of, he actually did pretty well over that. I really liked him because he was such a card, you know, he had a story. If I went down and I bought, whenever I'd go in, I'd want to buy coins from him. I'd buy these $10 gold pieces. He had 5 of them one day, and he only showed me 3. And I left the store and I came back the next day and he had the other 2. And he pulled them out for somebody else. And I said, well, why don't I buy those? And he goes, all you ever do is come and buy my coins. He said, you buy my gold. He goes, I sell you 3 and the next day you come back and you want to buy 2 more. And I said, you know, that's all you ever do. I said, you bitch when I buy and you bitch when I sell. I said, what kind of a salesman are you? And him and his wife just chuckled. They both chuckled because they knew what I was saying. But he was just he wanted to try to keep a few for other people who might want to buy. Where, if I were the salesman and somebody comes in and they want to put the money down, doesn't it make sense that, cash on the, merchandise on the shelf is worth money in the pocket?
That's what they say, Sid.
Yeah. So I would have looked at it, he was trying to keep them for other customers.
Sure.
And I was looking at it like,
Good investment.
yeah, I'm out of all of that now, of course. When it made, when it was worth something, I tried to get out. He taught me, he said, bulls make money and bears make money, but pigs get slaughtered.
Mm-hmm.
And
That's true in the stock market too.
yeah, it's true in everything. In your home, I mean, my home was worth about $350,000 and then the market fell. And when it fell, my home fell back to the value of what I originally paid for it, which was about $150,000.
Mm-hmm.
So when I got a divorce, I gave my ex-wife $150,000, bought her out. That was about the halfway mark of what, we always kept our money separate. And that was the difference between what I had over what hers was and the value. And I told her, I said, this is how good of a deal this is. If you don't want it, I'll take $150,000 and you can take the house.
Sure.
I said, honestly, I sat back and I looked at our values, and the values of homes dropped. So you could go out and buy a nice home for $150,000 back then.
I know it goes up and down. I didn't real estate went down because it gone up all my life, but I lost money on some real estate.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Well, I told my ex-wife that. I said, this is how good a deal this is. I said, and this is my opinion on it. But I said, this is how good it is. And I said, I'm offering you it if we don't deal with an attorney. Because if we didn't deal with an attorney, I'd rather her have that extra money, $30,000 or whatever, fighting with an attorney. I'd rather her have it than an attorney.
Oh, yeah.
And I explained that to her. And I said, if you're not willing to accept this, I'll sign the house over to you, my claim on it, and you give me $150 and I'll just go buy another place.
That's the mark of a good deal, Sid. Well, it doesn't matter which half you get.
Yeah. I didn't want to leave because she didn't want the house and I wanted the house, but I was willing to take $150 if she would offer it to me. And you know what she did? She ran like hell. She took it and ran.
Well, that's what my mother always taught me. She says, when somebody offers you more for something than what it's worth, take the money and run.
Well, she told me, she said, you are paying me the actual value of the house at that day. And I said, exactly. And she goes, why are you doing that? And I said, I can do that because we don't have attorneys. So that gives like another $30,000 or $40,000 in there for not using attorneys. And I said, I would rather you have it than they have it. So why not set it up? But I said, if you don't want it, I would rather have it, but yeah, it was just a matter of who wanted the house, and I wanted to stay. She left 10 years ago. The house has increased. And I said, there's enough money there to go buy another house. So why not? I would rather protect my house at that time than my 401k. I took that out of my 401k. Yeah. So, I mean, I'd have a lot more in my 401k right now if I'd have kept that with interest and everything. But the thing was, I wanted to secure my house.
Oh, sure.
And I knew I had my health issue, and I didn't want to find myself in a situation, I knew that there was the potential that could come into account. And I didn't want to find myself in a situation where if I lost my job, that I wouldn't be able to afford a house payment. So that's why I did it. And that's why I made the offer. But I didn't see any reason to sell at the time. I got my extra lot next door. I can sell that if I ever need to. So
I would recommend that you do not, you really don't want an next door neighbor that close to you.
I, I don't want to, and I choose not to, but if I ever chose to move out of the city, you know, then I will, yeah. And it's just a matter of, right now it's kind of an ace up my sleeve. And down the road, if I need it, it would be available. If I ever decided to buy some land in Island Park, I can pretty much trade an acre there for an acre, for Island Park.
I can see advantages to you living in Island Park, okay? But there are a lot of disadvantages too, Sid.
Oh, there's cold
And snow.
and snow.
Bunches of snow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Lack of access to hospitals.
It makes for fewer people.
Well, some of your depends upon medical care, and if you can't get to a hospital, you're in trouble. Here in Pocatello, you got no problem getting to a hospital. You had to, you could drive off foot.
But I also look at it, see, there's a game that I'm playing in life. I see life as a game, and it's a balance beam. And on one side, you've got so many years, and on the other side, you've got so much money. And ideally, you're going to make sure you got enough money for the years you've got. But you don't want to find yourself in a situation where you've got a lot more life and not enough money.
Yeah, I've heard of people outliving their money.
Yeah.
It does happen. The only thing I can say from my experience, don't ever put your faith in money. Money comes, money goes. It's not dependent.
Everything comes in from my income. It goes in this pocket, and then I drive over there and I give it to this exact amount to someplace else. And the people say, well, what kind of bills you want? And I said, they can be big. I said, it's all going the same place. I said, I just get to hold it for a few minutes and drive it to, across town, and it's gone. So.
Well, you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
If you place too much faith in money, it's going to disappoint you.
Well, I just don't want to find myself in a situation where the money's not there. If you have so much more life and not enough money,
then it's a problem.
Well, and you see these people living on the streets,
Yes,
and I don't want to be in that boat. And, there really isn't a lot of human compassion, especially in our day. People are really self-absorbed, especially these young people. So, and though I've shared a lot of money with a lot of people through my life, I've really given a lot more than I should have, but more than being reasonable would have dictated. But I didn't have children, so I was in a position where I could afford to, but I don't see somebody doing that my way. You know what I mean?
I do.
It's
what goes around comes around, but in a different form.
Yes. And I don't blame them. And sometimes I kick my ass for some things I've done, kind of like my ex-wife giving her the 150. But I'd rather have given, I wanted her to be able, she wanted to go to Boise. I wanted to give her enough that I didn't have a house payment, let her not have a house payment. We walked away with essentially the same money. She had some that I didn't know about when I did the thing, but what the heck? I wanted to be able to go through life without a guilt conscience for having taken advantage of her.
I think it's always a good idea to be as generous as you can with an ex-spouse.
Yeah.
I don't have any ex-spouses, so I don't have anything to base that on.
Well,
I do think it's a good idea to be as generous as you can.
In terms of karmic, justice or whatever, I don't have to worry too much. I've always tried to take care of people more than I've received. It doesn't mean that it's always going to be that way, you know, but it's a matter of I do the best I can with what I've got, and I try not to take advantage. So, but my place, I think between my place and my lot, I think I'm looking at about at least $350,000, $400,000 now. You know,
And
and
probably more than that, Sid. Could easily be $500,000. But what difference does it make if you're not gonna far?
yeah, well, down the road, I might, you know, it's a matter of, you know, what do I want out of life? And right now, I think expense wise, I'm essentially living here for about $400 to $600 a month if I include my taxes. Expenses are 400 or less, and there's a couple hundred in taxes. So you can't find rent anywhere around here that cheap. And you know, I got to maintain things, but that's what I like to do, and I like the space. So
One of these days, I'm gonna have to get up there and see where you live.
yeah, I'm just right across. You'll have to come see. I'm right across the street from the Mormon church house here in Indian Hills. Hank always harasses me about formally being a Mormon and living across the street from a Mormon church. And you know, it's funny. In 1984, when I came back from the mission in '83, December 30th, '83. And in January of '84, I had a friend who had been on the mission out there from Pocatello, and he got married, and I attended his wedding across the street. And it was his reception. He was married in the temple. But I parked on this side of the church, and all of this was tall sagebrush. And I remember looking out here at this lot. I parked right over where I could see right across the street where it was all sagebrush and everything. I never thought in a million years I would own that lot and build my house there. And I can, you know, you can look back at your life and see where you've been and everything. And I remember that day, it was a real windy day, and it was snowing, and there was snow packed on the ground, and the sagebrush was like 6 feet tall. And it was right offside the road here. And I remember looking at it, and it reminded me of that movie, It's a Wonderful Life, with Jimmy Stewart.
Mm-hmm.
Because of when he goes to the grave and the wind is blowing in the graveyard and the snow, and it reminded me of that scene from that movie. But the funny thing about this is, even though the church is across the street from me, if I were a member, that wouldn't be the church I would go to.
Anyway.
I have to go all the way down to the Gap.
Really?
Yeah, all the way down to down there where it turns up to Mink Creek and goes over to the Pocatello Gap. They got a church house down there. That's the one, even though I'm right across the street from this one, that's the one that I would attend. That's the way they do their division of membership.
Really?
Yeah, this road right out here in front of me is the dividing line. Somebody across the street from me would go to that ward. The neighbor over here, he's LDS. He goes to the one down the road here. And he lives right across the street. I mean, you gotta love America.
I do, Sid.
the lunacy, you know.
That's so crazy.
It is. But the craziness is what makes a lot of it worthwhile.
I'm not so sure. I think things could be better if people were smarter.
What would they learn from it, though?
Well, yeah, the smarter you are, the more you learn.
Well, but people got to start someplace. They don't just start out smart.
Yeah, people get dumber.
Yeah.
We've seen a lot of people.
You know, the psychics that I've been listening to, I've been watching their programs, they claim that you come into life to learn these difficult issues that you can't learn in the spiritual realm. Okay, so you're coming in here, and the people who are doing it to you here are your best friends there. The ones who are helping you here are your best friends there, and the ones who are screwing you over here are your best friends there.
That's
And that
all.
you contracted with those people to do that so that you can learn these things. And they contracted that you learn this half of the coin and they learn that half of the coin. And when you have your life review, you see how it affects everybody, all, you know. So some people make sacrifices and take really, really difficult challenges because the learning has progressed from those challenges. And other people learn from other people's mistakes. So there's really,
I seem to learn mostly from my mistakes.
well, I don't know. You read the one of those books, didn't you, by Michael Newton on Journey of Souls, Destiny of Souls?
I think I read all three.
Did you? What did you think of those?
I was impressed, especially by the first one. The first one I think was my favorite. Okay. The
Okay.
second one went into a little deeper, and I wasn't at all impressed by the third one.
The third one was where he taught you how to do it, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't impressed with that one. The second one, I had to read that book probably 20 times before I could remember because it was so intense. And the first one I did enjoy. What I liked was he was an atheist and he used the scientific method to assess the data. And in doing that, he found himself becoming a believer. And more than a believer, it was, I mean, he was saying that the spiritual guides were right there in the room with him, his spiritual guide and these other spiritual guides. So that kind of blew my mind about how he committed to that. There was another one. It's by Dolores Cannon. It's called Deaths Between Life.
Mm.
And on that one, she wrote about what happens when you die. Did you see that one?
No, I don't. Don't remember it anyway. Must
Okay.
not impress me if I read it.
She wrote about how you have all these reincarnated lives, and that when you die, you end up, your spirit goes into this light, and your light is pulled to where you initially meet your family and friends, and you also meet the people who were the thorn in your side in your life, who contracted to do that so that you would learn. And then you get pulled down this kind of a path where all these other souls are being pulled and everybody has this light appearance. So you get, it's like a freeway of everybody just floating in a direction. And you go back to your group of spiritual guides, or you see your spiritual guide, and then you go to your soul group, and your soul group is responsible for excuse me, they've been doing this with you for a long time, and you each evaluate each other's lives and give recommendations, and you know, they harass each other and kid each other. You know, one guy was a minister, and he was a hellfire and damnation minister, and another guy was an atheist, and he says, the one says, you were such a hellfire and damnation minister. He said, you were all screwed up. And he goes, yeah, well, at least I tried. You were an atheist. You know, so they prod each other about it. But then they go before their spirit council, and they go and when they go, Michael Newton talked about this too. They go before the council, and they get this council of members, and they review the person's life, and they have to ask questions. And the spiritual guide is, they say, Newton said, he's always behind and to the left. He allows the person to come forward and speak for themselves, but he's always behind and to the left in case they need assistance in memory or something like that, or you know, any kind of assistance in justifying themselves. But they go on to that. They go on to these temples of knowledge. There's a temple of wisdom, a temple of knowledge, and they look like Roman temples. and they're education centers, and these people go in and they learn these things. There's the library where all of the records, what do they call those records?
Akashic.
Yeah, Akashic records. All of those are in there. And essentially what you do is you go and you pick a life. The records are all of the lives, and you go in and you pick which life you're going to live. And when you've picked a life, you contract people to come in and live around you to help you advance in those lives. And they do it based on their needs and whether they want to or not. And then they come in and they'll live around those lives. One of the things I've learned about this is it's not necessarily lineal. So you might live a life today and go back and live a life 2,000 years ago in your next life. One of the problems with this is that all of these lives are occurring at the same time.
Now, when you get into the laws of gravity and time, things can get weird.
Yeah. And that seems to be what they're saying, is this all occurs at the same time. But it's like Abraham Lincoln. There's a lot of people who choose to experience Abraham Lincoln's life. And they can go into this, it's a circular room where you just look at the wall and you can see everything that Abraham Lincoln experienced as though you were Abraham Lincoln and going through that lifetime. Everything he did in that life, the person would see for the purpose of learning about what it's like to become a leader under a great deal of division and stress. Are you there? Your freeze froze. Are you there, Steve?